of his head. So I decided I'd help him and pull up some Ryuk stats. Last year, Ryuk, 19 of his total 48 games on the Renekton and Gnar. Likes to play the Jax Camille split push champions. We'll see, though, whether he does get the option of split pushing in this game. And one of the matchups I want to focus on the most here, Marby, is Glory against Jane. Because Jane, having had 2 games so far, both of those against Flash, I think Jane, while they played well, I don't think they did well.
You're gonna need to expand your vocabulary a little bit, because they played well, but they didn't play well as a bit of a throw up. But
you know what I mean.
I kind of get it. I think they played our lane pretty well, but they weren't like stomping heads or anything along those lines. They were.
So in other words, they played well, but they didn't play well.
No, that's shut up. It's gonna be interesting to see. I think they're gonna have a much harder time coming up against Glory, who is generally one of our best mid laners in the VCS, and it's off to he's picked himself a very rough matchup, at least in the early lane. He's given up the option to go for this first strike to Glory as well, so he's gonna be trying to farm gold off of this Akali as much as possible, as there's a lot of a scuffle on the top side, and we're coming back to this Gnar. Generally, I'm not a huge fan of Gnar because I do not like the unreliability of this Rage Bar. It's very easy to play around from the side of Cerberus. But looking across the rest of the team, it's pretty much one of the only champions they could have picked that gives them that engage that the comp is sorely lacking, whilst also being able to stand up and survive the Gwen at the top side. So I'm completely fine with it coming in here, as we saw a little bit of a poke into the top side from Fuquan, returning now to his blue buff, and should be looking to make his way from here. Still, I think, trying to shadow this top side and trying to make sure Poss can get that advantage as best as possible and punish the Gnar when in mini Gnar.
One of the weirdest things for me looking at this composition, this game, is I look at every lane and I think, you know what? I really like BTS's draft. I think they win. And then I look down on CBS's draft and I remember that they've got Artemis on their team. And it just flips the script entirely, because Artemis can just be so huge, and he's incredible as an ADC, especially here in the VCS. And I really want to be seeing Fuquan looking towards this bottom side, trying to get some kills onto Artemis, because that is the name of the Cerberus game.
Yeah, and I need to see action out of Fuquan in general, as this shouldn't amount to too much, but that's a lot of damage into Alamine. Because I really want to see Cerberus get that advantage, because Sky's composition is actually very good in team fighting and all that, and here's Drakthar caught out though.
Ron OP just flashes over the wall, Shield of Daybreak, catches out Drakthar, trying to play aggressive. Was the burst of Sky jungler bait, he gets punished. Great movement from the Cerberus support to join in for that skirmish.
Yeah, kind of pure greed from the side of Drakthar. He saw his bot lane get completely chunked out in that trade, and didn't decide, I need to sort of back away from these Krugs, because Ron OP can just walk in. The bot lane from the side of Burst the Sky is just too low to try and respond. Too slow as well, because they had to back right off. So it's just a free pick onto the Viego, and that sets Sky behind. And I was going to say, they only really have a good composition if they can reach sites of team fights first, because they have a very nice counter engage with the Braum and the Victor, but they have very, very poor engage on their own terms. They can't start a lot of fights. As when I say that, Elio's coming up to try and make something happen. Shroud just dissuades the whole thing though.
Yeah, Glory on half health. It doesn't want to risk making an aggressive play, even though Jane didn't have level 6, so no perfect execution available, but good to see Elio being proactive, and that's even on a Braum who's not a champion that we usually visualize as being a roaming support.
Yeah, you found a bit of a gap to match Leona's absence from lane, and from there, Velios and Jinx can just sort of whack each other away, and it's a fairly even matchup. So I do like seeing Braum try and make their way out, as Ryuk's in trouble.
Wind becomes lightning. Never mind. Just dive in with the audacious charge. Flash forward. 3 talent strike. And Fukwon picks up the kill. No teleport available for Ryuk either. So this is just going to be a lot of minions lost in the top lane. Meanwhile, Burst Sky uses opportunity of Fukwon being on the top lane to pick up the first strike of the game.
Yeah, but overall, it is another kill onto the jungler. It's plate gold onto this Gwen, as well as that assist. And they've already built up a very strong CS lead in this top side. So Ryuk is going to be a massive pain point for Burst Sky as this game continues. And while the bot lane is doing fine, they've managed to push it. They managed to do I mean, it's a very small advantage. They're doing okay, and they should be very comfortable as the game progresses. And with a dragon pickup, it's not really matching across the map. The gold is going comfortably towards the side of Cerberus, and these two stronger lanes for Burst Sky that we see their focus around isn't really amounting to much, as just catches Fook on the way out with the smite.
And I actually really want to praise Burst Sky. Yes, they're 1k gold behind, but I'm loving the stylistic choices that they're going for and how they've essentially researched this game and how they've prepared for it. Because Drakthar is entirely on this bottom side of the map. He's trying to deny as many resources as he can from Artemis. He knows that Artemis is the win condition for Cerberus, and he does not want to give Artemis any opportunity to get ahead, any opportunity for Ron OP to make aggressive plays.
I do worry they can tunnel a little bit onto Artemis. The classic I can always think of is games is the old SKT where everyone would just try and tunnel on and kill Faker, and that just left these other carries on the sidelines to try to just safely build up, and that is kind of what's happening here.
Yeah.
Jane is down only 10 CS, going to lose out on gold a lot more thanks to this first strike, of course, but Poss in the top side is going insane, getting a lot of free gold, and kind of being able to farm.
Well, we've got a fight in the mid lane. This is a 3v3, but Poss and Fukwon are making their way over. This is going to be huge. Wind becomes lightning. The first kill goes over to Drakthar, who gets a kill onto Leona. Jane going over the wall, but Drakthar is hunting, and Drakthar picks up the double kill. It's Burst Sky on the offensive. Poss trying to force Drakthar away. Glory is a low. Heartbreaker over the wall. Drakthar will get out, and it's just 2 kills going the way of Burst Sky. Now the goal dead even between the two teams.
Yeah, Jane jumping the gun a little bit, going super deep onto Glory. There's not a lot of health. There's low health on quite a few members of Sky, but Ryuk's got this Mega Gnar available. He just owns this corridor for the next few seconds. That should be more than enough time. Fukwon gets picked.
The delivery with the Gnar ult. Now they drop down the Glacial Fissure. Artemis cleanse flashing out of the play. And it's just more and more resources being taken away from Cerberus. Yes, Cerberus got the early lead, but Burst Sky, they roam better, they play around the Herald better, and now they find themselves in the lead with a lot of gold available courtesy of the Rift. And here's how everything started out in the mid lane.
And we see a very scattered engage from the side of Cerberus. Jane had been chunked out immediately, and Elio flies in alone and gets blown up in this chunk. And now Fukwon and Poss sort of try their best to clap back, but it's too late. 2 of their big members are down, and they don't really want to push into this 4v5, this 3v5. And with Ryu hitting this Mega Gnar, I thought it was pretty much going to be time it out, just use the zoning to pick up this Herald, but jumps in and finds the jungler, which makes it an easy pickup. They're able to feel much safer. And a good ultimate to just blow the summoner spells from Artemis as well. It's really just a cherry on top of everything.
And I want to go
very
back.
very happy to see that.
I want to go back to what you said as well, Marby. Burst Sky, they want to be at objectives first. They've got a great composition if Cerberus tried to go into them. And that's exactly what Burst Sky did. They got into that river first. They forced Cerberus to go into them, and they made their composition work. Whether they can do that over the other objectives that are still to come up in this game, we'll have to wait and see.
It's about 45 seconds towards this next objective, of course, this dragon. So we see Drakthar already on this side, Glory leaning down there to pick up the blue buff. And we're just going to need to see how they can look to control this side. Fukwon is lurking. If they can find a pick onto Glory, this can be massive. But as it is, there's a lot of pressure in this bot side for Burst the Sky.
From Glory, he flashes. And it means the Crescent Guard just lets Glory ride under the safety of his own tower. And guess what? Drakthar wants to play as well. He just shows up. Jane goes into the Twilight Shroud, and it buys enough time. Although Drakthar still thinking about making a play, has that Rift Herald available. And there's a lot of juicy tower plates available on Jane's mid lane outer tower.
And they want to keep this Dragon stack going, though. This is priority number 1 for the side versus Sky, and they're fairly happy with pretty much any soul that comes through. I think Ocean would be the least impactful, and as I say it, we get it. Because of a lot of the burst potential on the side of Cerberus, you've got huge bursts coming out from the Akali and the Gwen. As we see Ryuk desperately try and get away, he manages to survive. Doesn't actually burn the flash, which is quite huge. And a drop of the Rift Herald gives Glory everything he needs. He's well on the way towards his crown.
I do like how Burst Sky have literally just taken this bottom quadrant of jungle, and they've just told Fuquan that, well, he's not getting any of it, so he can leave and just leave it all to Drakthar. And he's got himself a rather comfortable 22 CS lead over his opposing jungler.
Jane has gone for the chem tank, so that means
we flame.
The threat level has kind of dropped a fair amount. Like,
yeah,
a lot of what Jane really wants to do in this comp is jump in, do as much AoE damage as possible, and let Pass and Artemis do the sort of hit the finishing touches with the rockets from range. And I don't think this is gonna work out fantastically for them. It lets you be a nuisance and give space for Artemis, I suppose, but I don't think that's the play. Might work out for them in the long run, but I really don't think it's the play.
To be honest, I thought the whole Chem Tank Akali meta had ended, but apparently it hasn't. At least not according to Jane, who still wants to live in Turbo Chem Tank Akali world. Why, I don't quite know. But we'll see whether
it's definitely not as strong because you don't get the multiple procs off the Chem Tank as much, but it still functions. It's just not as good. So,
wait, that wind's become lightning didn't land on Ryuk?
It did, but they timed the Audacious Charge. Well, the hop was timed well against the Audacious Charge, so it just sort of bounced off. And we seen Fuquan just feel a little bit out of sorts. He tried matching Drakthar and got blasted, as I'm going to hold that thought.
Good stun onto Jane. The gravity well has been dropped down, but Jane able to sidestep their way out. The Chaos Storm won't quite be able to get on top for long enough to do substantial damage onto the Akali's health bar. As Glory and Drakthar will just try to clear out some vision. Fuquan and Ron P here as well. Do we see a skirmish? Rift Herald will be up in about a minute's time. Zenith Blade now lands. Solar Flare on top. Heartbreaker. Drakthar flashing over the wall. Ryuk here as well. But he's just going to hop his way over the Baron Pit.
Yeah, we see Cerberus first to the play this time, and they're able to punish Drakthar and force out his flash and his ultimate. They didn't really want to commit everything to... Actually, hold that, Ryuk.
Well, Ryuk getting caught out, Ron OP and Fuquan with a bit of a death brush. These are two roaming together, trying to find plays. Elio trying to make his way around across the map as well, as we've got a lane swap coming in. Aomine going into the mid lane. Glory dropping down towards this bottom lane. Glory has teleport. Jane doesn't.
Exactly. This is the lane assignment. This is a very nice lane assignment, putting the teleport down into the bot side. As Rift Herald is the play, but there's a reset coming through from Cerberus, and it's given Burst the Sky the opportunity to walk right back into this pit and start it up. This is should be a fairly free objective as long as Elio and Aomine in particular is able to get in place, but a bit slow from the rotation from the mid lane.
The sooner the fight starts, the better for Burst the Sky, because Glory is here. This is a 5v4. They force Jane away with half health. The Baron, the Rift Herald are down to under 3,000. The Gwen is now here. The fight about to start. Who gets the Rift Herald? Not quite sure, but the fight has begun. Crescent Guard already dropped it down. Glacial Fissure on the top. Jane trying to get into the backline. Really low. Ryuk not going to be able to find the kill on Jane. And now Aomine and Glory are on the back foot. Zap sidestepped well. Artemis, does he want to flash over the wall? He's dropping down the rock. He's dropping down the damage, but not quite enough damage. Overall, 3 kills for nothing. Cerberus coming out on top. And Fuquan picking up the Rift Herald. It's all going the way of Cerberus.
Yeah, huge pickups. Sky's attention very much split. Not willing to just try and burst the fight. I mean, they can't engage the fight on their own terms, really. Not with that Ryuk only being about halfway through his bar. And it's a big team fight win for the side of Cerberus. They pick up this Rift Herald and get 2 charges off. We see it's good zone control, but the fight kicks off, and Ryuk, he takes so long to pop into this Meganar, and he just knocks them away. He doesn't swing them towards the wall. He doesn't get a stun. He's not able to get any real strong setup for his carries to do the damage. And it just means that, well, the damage is done. The carries are sprinting away, trying to hold on to their lives as the front line falls apart.
See, for me, what I feel like one of the issues with the fight there for Buzz Sky, maybe it's one of the issues with the composition, is you look at the champions on the team, and for me anyway, they all want to do different things. You look at the likes of a Braum. He wants to be dropping down his passive on as many people as possible. Same for the Victor. Aphelios, really good at multi-target, at least when he's got the rapid fire. The Runan's Hurricane doesn't have that at the moment. But then you look towards Drakthar. He wants to be getting those resets. And in that fight, it just felt like Burst Sky, they couldn't lock down a single member. They couldn't unload all of their damage onto one champion to get that critical reset off for Drakthar.
Yeah, the front line does want to try and dive in and hit that burst, especially Drakthar. Drakthar is kind of the only one that really cares about that big single target to pick off those resets, because Ryuk, of course, wants to just pick up, just jump in and do as much CC to as many people as possible. So, but it is that big problem where if Drakthar isn't really able to pick off those resets, you kind of lose a huge chunk of what is your front line, because you basically are trying to drain tank and health and regen your way through those fights. And Ryuk, yeah, he's only strong half the time as a tanky member. So if you don't get your team fight set up just right, it can go terribly wrong, as we saw there. Pretty much unless you're able to burst out one of the big members, but you know, Jane's gone for this tank build, so harder to burst out. Poss is immune. He is Gwen. Yeah. It's really only Artemis, and Artemis has so much range that they can just hang back and wait for it to really start kicking off before they try and actually engage into anywhere of the threat range of Glory and Almina.
Good flash from Glory out of the Solar Flare. Also means he gets to preserve the crown of the Shattered Queen. Now teleports coming in from Cerberus. Drakthar on the flank. However, Almina and Elio really far away from this, so Burst Sky will not be able to aggress any further. And they will just head on over to what I don't quite know. Almina is going to farm up in the mid-wave. Everyone else is pretty much just going to back.
Yeah, there's nothing really on the map for anyone to start taking right now. The Dragon was taken off the map by Cerberus as well. Just off that back of that last big play. So just a couple of teleports traded, and that's not really going to amount to too much. Baron is going to be alive, but it's not really on the table for either team unless there's a huge team fight win from either side. So we're kind of just waiting off these next 2 minutes, trying to see, I don't know, where do we go from here? We're just trying to put as much gold into the pockets of Almina and Glory as possible. Glory's picked up his second item, so he's quite comfortable right now with that Shadow Flame. But yeah, we just need to see the damage really coming in from Almina. Probably pick up on and Lord Dominic's regard, so that Akali's tank build sort of plays against her.
Now, we do have a bit of a lull state and an opportunity to talk a little bit about both teams. Cerberus and Burst Sky both making it into playoffs in Winter Split. Burst Sky finishing third in Winter. Cerberus going on to win the split. Now, I went on and I did some analysis on both of the teams over the course of the spring split so far. High in-depth analysis. And I came to a conclusion. And from my analysis, I found Cerberus beat Flash, Flash beat Saigon Buffalo beat Luxury, and Luxury beat Burst of Sky, so therefore Cerberus are better than Burst of Sky. And there is no triangle here. It's literally a direct line.
There's no circle of suck to work around, but we yeah, I mean, sure that is how it works, but if you consider,
right,
we have a whole other tournament. No, look, Burst of Sky.
Don't you dare bring in SEA games again.
No, look, Burst of Sky. I feel like that they have shown a lot of that first series against Luxury was a little bit of a fluff, and I do agree that POS, in particular, has been a big step up for the side of Cerberus. They just needed that mental reset, I think, coming out from these solo laners, and it's coming, and it's been very good for them. But now Burst of Sky, they have completely abandoned this bot side. They are not happy. They do not care about these Drakes. They do not want to keep the stack going. They just want to control this top side, but they're actually a little bit too scared to do so. They do not have pressure. They can't push really far into the river. They don't feel comfortable. So they're not really being able to make the calls and direct where the attention of the map is. And it's just sort of letting the game get a little bit away from them. Gold is even. So it's not completely out of their hands yet, but they do not have the control of the map. They do not have the dreaded word tempo. They do not get to decide what happens.
I'm really glad you brought up this point, because I was about to bring it up myself, because it feels like Cerberus are the ones who are in control of the game. Maybe that's just because the most recent fight was won by Cerberus, so that thought is fresh in my mind. But when you look at it objectively, everything is very close. The gold is, less than 1k between them. 2 Drakes for both sides. I was trying to check how many towers, but I can't see it, so I'm actually going to have to look. It's 3 towers to 2, so again, very close. So I kind of want to get an understanding of what can we expect over the next 10 minutes. Is it okay if BTS just sit back, farm, and say, hey, Cerberus, you can take the next Drake. That's fine by us.
It's fairly fine for BTS to be quiet, but I do think they need to, because of the way their comp works, they do need to be fairly assertive and pushing and trying to gain those control over those big objectives. That's why I want them to focus on the Drake. So if you give up that next Ocean Drake, it's not a huge deal. You'll find just scaling those extra 5 minutes coming back to the next one. But if you can secure that and keep it to yourself, generally that's a better option for you, because it buys at 10 minutes or gets you a soul in the next 5. So I want them to try and push and be more assertive and try and do what their comp does best, and that is hold an area. But they just aren't. They're just conceding too much ground to the side of Cerberus right now. I think they feel like they're further behind than they actually are. So, if you're looking across at the items, you're seeing pretty much parity across the board, but there is a completed locket on the side of Ron OP. There is that extra last whisper on Artemis. So they might just be looking across and being, okay, we aren't quite as strong because our matchup gold is, I guess we have a completed item, a completed Sterix compared to components in Fook 1.
Potentially. One final thing that I do want to raise is these kind of games are my favorite. I'm a big fan of the likes of Azir Corki meta, because you've got a whole period of build-up where there's not much happening, both teams are just posturing, and then you'll get that one big explosive fight that makes that entire stalemate worth it. And I feel like that's what we're building towards. So I want to know from you, Marby, who is the key member when we do get that fight to be looking out for Cerberus, for Sky? It could be who's dealing the most damage, who's creating the fight. What should the viewers be looking out for? What should I be looking out for?
I think Ryuk has to be the very obvious one, because Burst the Sky's team fight, I'm pretty much almost lives and dies by their performance. If they can't get any CC down as a Meganar, if they spend the entire fight in the mini form, it's gone, it's useless. But on the other side, I don't know. I guess you have to look at Artemis, but Poss, I think, would also be the big one to look at. How much damage can they do to the backline? Can they make things happen? But, I mean, to quickly answer my own question, yes, they can make things happen. It's called a two-man Baron, and there is... Sky just were not aware of it until far too late.
Elio slowly making his way up, drops a ward, but the Baron already down to 2,000 health, and Cerberus played it well. They just put members in the side lane, and they said BTS won't expect this one to come through. And Burst the Sky didn't. Now there is a Baron on the side of Cerberus. That means that they're going to be able to push in waves, and maybe give them the opportunity to pick up another Drake for free, and a Drake that would take them to Soul Point as well.
Yeah, and if they can play off two lanes very well, that'll be really fantastic. They could look for a third one. They do technically have two effective split push side laners, but I want to just see Jane sort of lurk between the mid and the side of Poss, sort of just shadow, make them think, oh, we can collapse onto the Gwen perhaps, and then surprise Akali. Because, I mean, Cerberus in theory do not actually have a very good siege composition, so they really need to try and line up these waves. But they do have dive.
Cerberus take the fight. They're looking for Elio, and Artemis will get the kill. Artemis is excited. Down goes the inner tower. Now they look to Ryuk. They'll be able to pop the Sterox, but that is all. Burst Sky turtling under their tower. But look at Artemis go, and Ryuk is lucky to still be alive. Cerberus didn't even really need the Baron buff for that, but they're going to continue their siege nonetheless. Ryuk in base for a few seconds longer. Ocean Drake up, and Fukwon already making his way down into the river.
Third one's going to be able to pick up that dragon easily, and this tower should not be long for this world. They're going to crack the inhibitor as well, and we just saw Ryuk. Once I said it, it lives and dies by him, and that fight was pretty much won by the time he transformed. It was a very good moves from Cerberus, knowing when to play into this into its rage bar, and it's just complete victory, total victory for Cerberus. Once again, we see here, I think Ryuk's just exhausted himself as we see Cerberus try and make something happen. As the replay started a little bit too late, too early. But yeah, locks down this front line and drags them in. And you just need that one reset for Artemis to truly pop off. And Poss in the back line as well just shreds through Drakthar. It's the front line's gone. Alamina and Glory just cannot respond to it.
And I feel like this is another almost clash of champion identities within Burst Sky's composition. We talk about how Burst Sky, they want Cerberus to come into them. But if Cerberus are deciding when they want to take the fight, that means that they get to decide how much of Ryuk's rage bar he's got completed. If Burst Sky are the ones trying to engage, they can set things up at the right time, but then that doesn't really fit in with what the Aphelios and Brum want to do in a composition.
Yeah, I find it's hold on, we might have a pick on the Fu one.
They do. The gravity well dropped down, but Rono P and Artemis are making their way over. Solar Flare will lock Ryuk in place. The Glacial Fissure dropped down. Now Drakthar joining into the fray as well. Ryuk is super low. Super Mega Death Rocket gets the kill. And Poss is coming in from behind. What can Aomine do? He drops down the Moonlight Vigil, but it does nothing. It's a clean ace for Cerberus. They make their way past the top lane in a tower. They don't care about it. A quadra kill for Artemis. And all 5 members of Cerberus crash on into the Nexus Towers of Burst the Sky. It wasn't close at the end. Cerberus take a commanding win over Burst the Sky.
Yeah, we saw Sky